But the Argentinians looking calm and relaxed and not at all affected by that awesome sound inside of those Fijians encroaching into their half with that dance. And Mr. Fleming indicates the start of this match, and Severo Koronduadua, the Fijian fullback, starts this match into the arms of Marcelo Campo. And a slightly nervous start there for the Argentinians. And the key man in this match, undoubtedly, Ugo Porto, the man wearing the number 10 jersey. How much is he going to kick, and how much of the possession that his team will win will he free to his very fast, fleeting backs outside of him? The Fijians caught offside, and a defensive penalty to the Argentinians. Well, the feeling around the Argentinian camp this week is that because they will have a big advantage up front, that we'll probably see a lot of kicking from the boot of Porter, who will be happy to keep this ball ahead of his forwards. Do you go along with that, Thorny?
Without doubt, Hugo Porter, as you say, is the key man. That draw they had with the All Blacks a couple of years ago was Hugo Porter 21, the All Blacks 21. He is the key. He will do a lot of kicking.
Clean ball from that line out for the Argentinians. Well, they are running it from inside their own half. This is Cuesta Silva on the break. The referee playing advantage to the Fijians from that knock forward from Cuesta Silva, but there was none.
Perhaps we should say that Porter will be the general of the Argentinian team, as he always is, and marshal his troops.
There's a tight head to Diego Cash, and off the back goes the big man, Gabriel Travaglini. And Porter from 45 metres. But that would be one of the poorer drop goal attempts from the boot of Ugo Porter. And Koronduadua from the far side of the field, a big kick, because he was outside the far upright. And there's no wind here at Rugby Park this afternoon in front of a crowd probably between about 8,000 and 10,000 people.
It's important that the Fijians score early in this game, I believe, to get their tails up. They've had some terrible hidings over the last couple of years in New Zealand. The only victory they've had in the last couple of years was against Wellington the other week. And already they're starting to infringe, which is not going to help their cause.
From pushing at the back of the line out, and Mr. Fleming points the finger, I think it was, in fact, at Savai, the other lock forward. In fact, Savai, who played all his rugby here on this ground for Waikato last year, penalised, and a chance for Ugo Porter. Interesting to see how Porter fares with these mitre balls, which have caused a certain amount of difficulties for some of the kickers so far in this tournament. From 40 metres. And that was well astray as well, along with the drop goal. And that seems to be the pattern we're seeing from the kickers in this tournament. Even Grant Fox took a couple to warm up at Eden Park the other day against Italy. So Koronduadua to restart again. Comes off the fingertips of Orge Allen. And Porter just inside halfway. He's showing that he might be 35, but he still has some skills. Cuesta Silva up to the 22. And boy, there's plenty of commitment from these Argentinian players. Ternez on the 22. Campo. The ball has gone forward. Well, there's nothing dour or defensive about the Argentinians' tactics so far in this match.
No, they want to spin the ball, but this could be the first, another drop kick perhaps from Porter. Now he's going to run the blind.
Gomez, the halfback, loses the ball on the 22. Turned ahead by Natuka. Good play there by Ozo Mostani, the loose forward for Argentina, going down on the ball and stopping that movement. But again, the whistle has gone for a series of knock-ons there. The first was from one of those Fijian forwards. And so Fabio Gomez, this tiny little Argentinian halfback, will feed the scrum. Having problems getting the scrum down. The Argentinians, oddly enough, have come to New Zealand without a recognised hooker in their side. Diego Cash, who's hooking this afternoon, propped against the All Blacks in '85, and their regular hooker in recent years, Cavalli, couldn't recover in time from a knee injury, and so has missed this World Cup, and so they've gone into this World Cup tournament with no recognised hooker, and Diego Cash, one of the smaller Argentinian props, has moved in from his position as prop to hook the scrum, but he's already taken one tight hit from the match, so he's off to a very good start in the World Cup. Porter just kicking over the top. It's an awkward one for Corin Dua, but he was in position 15 metres from his own goal line, and it's good play from the big lanky Suba policeman. They call this man Super Boots in Fiji, and he really is a national hero in Suba. He came back this year from an injury in 1986 and made a big impression in the South Pacific Championship and nearly carried his side to victory in the match against Canterbury. Tap from Allen at the back of the line-out. It's an untidy ball, and it's picked up by the Fijians. This is where they're most dangerous, from these broken pieces, but the ball is knocked forward.
I've always believed, Brendan, over the years, that the Fijians should play their natural game and throw the ball willy-nilly around. Over the years, New Zealand coaches have gone up there and tried to get them to play what could be termed All Black rugby. It doesn't seem to have worked for them.
And of course, assisting at the moment with the Fijian coaching side is George Simpkin, a life member of the Waikato Rugby Union. And he's been with the Fijian national side for the past 2 years, and in that time he has tried to instill some basic forward drills, which has been the traditional weakness of Fijian rugby. And their scrum has been penalised, and this certainly will be a shot at goal for Porter.
The coaches that have gone over to the Fiji Islands have always said, oh, we've got to get the basic skills right, getting the scrums and line-outs and support for the ball carrier and all that. And they seem to have forgotten that the natural exuberance of the Fijians has been forgotten. And Brendan, you've been to Fiji more times than I have over the years.
Well, it is an awkward dilemma for New Zealand coaches that go there, but Simpkin believes that you can't really throw the ball around if you can't win it from set pieces. That's what he's tried to instill with them. However, it's Porter from 45 metres. And that would just about rank as the worst kick I think Ugo Porter's ever had in international rugby. Is it the ball or is it the kickers? It's an interesting story.
Well, I've said my piece for the last 2 days about the balls, and I'm not going to carry on. And that would be the worst kick in the World Cup, without doubt. And Hugo Porter will want to forget about that one very quickly.
Well, I once saw Peter Thompson in the golf championship shank the ball 80 metres, so I suppose even the most best artistes at their particular sports can have off days, but that really was an awful kick from Porter, and I can't help but feel that part of the fault may lie with this unusual ball that he has encountered here. Naituka, the big Fijian prop, leading the charge, and this is Thama, the centre three-quarter, but there's no room for midway 22 and halfway, still inside the Fijian half. And the Fijians receive their first penalty of the match, which has now been in progress 8 minutes.
There is a commitment on behalf of the Fijians, without doubt, and here is a super kick from the Super Boot.
They call him Super Boot. Now, there's a lot of people laughing around Rugby Park at the moment at the sight of this man deciding to kick for goal, but I can remember the crowd at Athletic Park did that back in 1968 when Pierre Villepreux lined up a kick of similar dimensions. And believe you me, this fellow here, he can kick him from here all right. I've seen him put them over from over 50 metres.
Well, I was standing underneath the goalpost in 1968 at Athletic Park when Pierre Villepreux took this kick, and I couldn't believe it, Brendan.
Well, this is a kick 9 metres inside the Fijian half. There is no wind, so it's a 59-metre kick. Not quite enough from the way of legs, and it falls about 5 or 6 metres short of the post, and a very poor kick. It hasn't found touch. The Fijians inside. The Argentinian half as Rakawaloa puts the ball high in the air, coming out on the 22. But can the Fijian forwards win it? They can't. It's back to Porter. This is going to be their problem. Ternez gets away from 2 defenders. Marvellous skills these Argentinian backs have. Such balanced footballers.
And I think they're going to get a lot of work today to the Argentinian backs if Porter does get the ball out, because they're going to get probably about 65% of the ball. Their scrum is much better than the Fijians.
And again, it's Jorge Allen at the back of the line out, winning clean ball for the Argentinians. And they're really getting a feast of possession from these set pieces. And the Fijian forwards penalised again for going over the top. And Porter drives the Fijian back to another 30 metres. Nabila Wassa and Sabai going high, short on the line out for Fiji, and it's eventually Namoro that frees it, but it's a rather untidy ball to Korundua. Again using that prodigious punt of his, but he hasn't found touch. One Lanza back there for Argentina, but into touch on the full, I think, by the look of it. You can tell that there is a large Fijian element here in this crowd. They get very excited very quickly with their voices. They're very vocal at rugby matches, and it adds quite an exciting element to any game of rugby when they attend in large numbers like they have done here today. It is in fact such a mild, warm day, we could almost think we're back on the roof of Buckhurst Park in Suva. Rokawalawa, Tomasi Thama, buried, however, by Kempo, and the Fijians have been penalised. That very heavy tackle, or the Argentinians penalised, should I say, that very heavy tackle by Kempo, and that's what he's in the side for. Very strong defensive player, and he buried Thama. Now, I'm not altogether sure what Korundua was trying to do there. I think his captain wanted it high in the air, something like that. And it's been knocked forward.
It's an amazing decision, actually, for Korundua to kick 75 metres across the field when the other touchline was about 20. Distinctive Edinburgh brogue of the referee there, but it's Argentina with all the firepower up front. Their scrum is just so much stronger than the Fijians.
And the real foundation of this Argentinian scrum is a very experienced second row of Gustavo Milano and Eliseo Branca. And deflected off the boot of Naituka, but it manages to find touch. There's Jorge Allen, who's winning a lot of ball at the back of the line out for Argentina. And just look at the strength and the power of that Argentinian scrum. That is positively awesome.
I think the whole of the Fijian front row had their feet off the ground then. I think they were getting a free lift along.
And the match is only 13 minutes old. No score on the match so far here at Rugby Park in Hamilton between Argentina and Fiji. Lifting by those Argentinian forwards. Penalty, 15 metres in from touch from that line out. And the Fijians might decide to have a bit of a run here because they're not getting much ball. And Salva, his first real touch in this test match, his first touch in test match rugby, and the ball nearly got away from him on halfway. And Porter, there's room down this left flank, but that was a very poor pass. Jorge Allen, or George Allen, as I suppose people of an English tongue might call this man. And the surname of this fellow is because he is of English ancestry. In fact, his grandmother, still alive and well, lives in the British Isles, but he is Argentinian by birth. throw wasn't straight, and so the scrum to go down 15 metres in from touch on the Argentinian 10-metre line. Fabio Gomez. The Porter. The little kick over the top for Turnez and Cuesta Silva, but they were offside. Oh, those boys are quick off the mark.
Yeah, if you've got 2 metres start, you're even quicker, Brendan. But they're taking the penalty.
Well, I'm sure Corin Duadua will kick for goal again. This is about 10 metres closer to the posts than the one he failed with, just inside the Argentinian half. He really is a massive fellow, this guy. 24-year-old Severo Corin Duadua. This is what the journey looks like from behind the goalposts. He kicked 5 penalties earlier this season for Fiji in the match against Canterbury, which they nearly won. They only went down by 4 points in that high-scoring match, due largely to the power and accuracy of this man's boot. Well, it certainly had the distance, and he only took a couple of paces and just a gentle walk into the ball, and bang! It flew for 55 metres, but the direction was astray. And they will be, I suspect, valuable misses for the Fijians, because they're not suggesting they're going to win a lot of possession from this match, and scoring opportunities may not be too frequent. So each side has missed with 2 shots at goal, although Porter has also, of course, had a drop goal attempt. No score in the match after 15 minutes. This is Diego Cash, the former tight head prop, who's now hooking the Argentinian scrum. And ball at last for the Fijians. Rakawalawa kicked ahead by Natuku. Tavulu and Thama giving chase. Well taken by the young 20-year-old Argentinian fullback Salvar. And away comes Branca, Eliseo Branca to Porter. His kick has been charged down by Navila Wasap. The Fijians, this could be the first try, yes! Wale the try. So after 16 minutes of play, and rather against the run of play, an opportunist try was presented to the Fijians, and they took it. And it started really from the charge down, from the kick by Ugo Porter. Now watch Ugo Porter. He didn't get his kick, he stopped, he propped, and the kick was charged down by Wale. It was picked up by their hooker, Naivala Wasa. On hand was Wale, their loose forward. And Pathele Wale went over for the try just a few metres to the left of the upright. From a very handy position. And the Fijians have really rocked the Argentinians. They're ahead by 6-0.
The charge down from Porter's kick, and then the hooker. It was Navila Wasa, and then inside to Wale, and Wale did the rest. Good play among the forwards.
And away goes the big lock forward. Savai, and the Fijians really, I suspect, with plenty of fire in their bellies now after that real fillip. The ball had been knocked forward by Argentina. The referee playing advantage to Fiji. They have it. Corin Duadua. Well, his kick had been charged down, but we'll come back for that original knock on.
Good refereeing by Mr. Fleming, playing the advantage.
This is a very interesting situation that's developing here. The Fijians, when they get behind, tend to become disorganised pretty quickly. But in turn, when they get their noses in front, they really do seem to play with a lot of fire and commitment.
They've got to stop the scrums being set down. They can't infringe knock-ons and things.
Fijians were originally penalised in that barge after the whistle had gone by Allen. The results in Mr. Fleming changing his mind, and he's penalised Allen and given the penalty to Fiji, and this is kickable.
And Hugo Porter not enjoying it at all, having words with the referee.
So the first 20 minutes of this match have gone, and the Fijians are ahead by 6-0, and it could be more. Beautiful kick from Koranduadua.
That's the thing, you see, it's so casual. Whenever he tries to force, as he did in that bigger kick, he didn't get near it. But there, just nice and easy, 3 or 4 steps, bang.
He's got a swing like Severiano Ballesteros, just nice and easy and relaxed, and it produces so much power. The song we can hear is coming from the voices of the Los Tacos rugby team from the Tucumán province, who are travelling through New Zealand at the moment, and they're sitting in the grandstand and feel it's probably about time they start giving some vocal support to the Argentinians, trailing by 9 points in the first 20 minutes of this match. And now there's a batch of penalties coming against the Argentinians, who might just be a little rattled. Naituku up to halfway. He's a very big man, 16.5 stone. This live wire hooker of theirs, Naivila Wasa. Looks as if he's patterned his play on someone like Hika Reid or someone. He's so quick around the ground. There he is, number 2, the man who was on hand to set up that try. Meanwhile, the Fijian halfback, the Tambolutu, is lying in the middle of the field with an injury.
Fijian team are just playing like men possessed, and there's nothing like watching a Fijian side with their tails up. They are an awesome sight, and I just hope that they can just keep playing this sort of rugby. Very bruising sort of stuff if you're on the receiving end of it, but they just love it so much, running with the ball. There wouldn't have been many people that would have picked that score, Brendan, after 23 minutes of play in this game.
Well, it's ironic, I suppose, that the last time we saw the Fijians playing a team in blue and white, it was a couple of weeks ago at Eden Park, where they were beaten by 68 points to 7 by Auckland. But there's been a dramatic transformation in their play since then. In fact, the following week, back in Suva, they improved out of sight when they managed to beat Wellington, the national champions from last year. And it appears that the long, hard work of George Simpkin might be starting to pay some dividends. They certainly have tightened up their forward play a lot since the early 1980s, and Tambolutu is in no condition to continue, so he's being carried from the field. And his World Cup campaign has ended after just 23 minutes. Coming down midway, 22 and halfway. Well taken by Rokawailawa, the Fijian first 5-8.
So let's watch this Argentinian scrum now.
So there is still no replacement on the field for Tambolutu. Argentinian backs lined out on both sides, but Porter electing to kick for the corner flag, and his judgment was just marginally astray as it went to the touch on the foot. Hasn't been a auspicious start to the World Cup for Hugo Porto. He's missed 3 shots at goal. He's had a kick charge down, and he's kicked probably the worst attempt at goal he's had in his international career. And so the replacement for Tumbalutu comes onto the field. This will be Paulo Nawula, wearing number 16, the number 2 halfback in the Fijian World Cup squad. And an experienced player he is too, played for Fiji for many years. And a shocking pass to Porter, but he recovered it well. The long skip pass from Turnez to one Lanza. Lanza having the opposition on, this tiny little 11-stone left winger from Buenos Aires. One of the 9 players in this Argentinian side that played against the All Blacks in 1985. And just look at these big men in this Argentinian pack. And the ball taken off Diego Cash by the Fijian loose forwards. And away goes Nalanga coming in from the right wing up to the 22. A lot of penalties in the first 25 minutes of this match. The Argentinians have received 4 and the Fijians 7, so 11 penalties in 25 minutes. Corin Duando has converted one of them into 3 points, and he'll now kick for touch from inside his 22. When he returned to the Fijian side at the start of this year in their first match in the South Pacific Championship, when he came on to Buckhurst Park, the national stadium in Suva, the crowd nearly lifted the roof off with applause for the sight of their hero back in the Fijian side after a long and successful battle against injury which carried him through the last season. Missed all of the last season in Fiji, but is back in his very best form in 1987. And away goes Branca up towards the halfway. And it's there for Gomez. Porter on halfway, decides to have a little run, but he can't get away. Nalu scoops up the loose ball inside the Argentinian half, but there was no real support close at hand for Nawalu, and he was taken into touch.
The Argentinians are doing it the hard way because they had an overlap there when Porter had the ball, and instead of passing, he elected to have a little jink on his own and got into all sorts of trouble.
Those Fijian loose forwards seem to have the measure of Hugo Porter at the moment. Gustavo Molano, tallest man in the Argentinian side. There's 3 big 2-metre men in this Argentinian pack, and that clearly wasn't straight. Again, there's only one pack in this scrum. Fijian backs caught offside. Could not keep up with the speed of the Argentinian pack. From the tap penalty, Cuesta Silva to Lanza inside the Fijian 22. Picked up by Nawalu. Good play by Nawalu. Well, they may be being smashed in the scrums, the Fijians, but they are certainly on an equal footing in the loose with the Argentinians at the moment. And of course it was their loose forward, Mwale, who scored the try from the charge down from the kick by Hugo Porter inside his 22. Branco not able to pull it down cleanly on the Fijian 22. And Porter with another drop goal. And again it's out to the right. So that's 2 drop goals and 2 penalty attempts that Porter has had, and none of them have gone between the uprights yet.
But I think that the Argentinians are playing it the wrong way. They should be spinning the ball. They're getting so much ball, and they've got good backs. Why don't they try and spin it?
Salvat, the fullback, on halfway. He can go either way. And there's a very late charge on Salvat, who has been laid out flat by John Sunday, the Fijian number 8. And I think Mr. Fleming picked it up.
So he's picked up the offside. The late tackle he didn't see, and no,
that's right. That's extraordinary.
This could rattle the Argentinians, these sort of decisions.
So the Argentinians were caught for offside there from the kick from Salvat, but after he kicked it, Sunday just laid him flat. But Mr. Fleming's back was turned and he didn't see it. This is almost a reminiscent of the match at Eden Park yesterday, where the Romanians went in as the hot favourites and they played fairly awful rugby for the first 70 minutes, and then in 10 magic moments they won the match. Maybe the Argentinians might take the same length of time to settle down.
I have that sort of feeling myself, actually.
Because they're clearly superior in the scrums. They're getting a feast of ball from the lineouts, but they can't put any points on the board. Gomez with the Fijian backs spread all around the place there. I thought he might have run it, he didn't. Tavola went back. Tavola.
The Fijian backs are just... that was your friend, Mr. Naivila Wassam, that was spotted very quickly by Mr. Fleming there. It's called stamping. But the Argentinian backs are just not realising where the Fijian backs are.
The Fijian backs just seem quite happy to play right out of position. On that occasion there, when Gomez had the ball, the Fijian backs were all over the paddock and he kicked. I think they might be just a little rattled at the moment, the Argentinians, and they could probably do with some points on the board just to settle themselves down. They are 9 points behind. We've had nearly a half an hour in the first half of this match, and they will certainly want to score some points before the break. Of course, whenever anyone plays against the Fijians, the element of unpredictability is always one uppermost in your mind. You never know what they're likely to do next. But really, there hasn't been much in the way of unpredictability about the Fijian rugby so far in this match. They haven't had a lot of ball, and the try that they did score came from broken play after Porter's kick was charged down.
I want you to go down nice and gentle. Oh, gentle now.
And again, the Fijian scrum just taken apart with absolute ease by this Argentinian pack, but it's untidy ball. And Porter goes in to scoop it up, but it's picked up by Wale. It's there for the Fijians. Savai, midway 22 and halfway. Rakaroi, the captain, frees it to Nawalu. Goro playing out in the middle of the backs, putting pressure on Salvati. Took it well. It's not a bad boot he has on him either for such a little fellow, but it went into touch way back near where he kicked it. This 20-year-old Sebastian Salvat, they speak very highly of him in Argentina. They feel he may be the next Hugo Porter, the man to replace Porter in the 90s. Playing at fullback today, but his regular position is in fact first 5'8", but obviously there's no room for him in the Argentinian team in that position at the moment.
Well, he could even replace Porter now, the way Hugo Porter is playing, but as we saw yesterday in the Romanian game, when our friend Hadorka, who played very badly throughout the game, we thought so, was the hero of the game at the end.
Well, if we go back to that Australian tour last year where the Argentinians played so poorly, and it was a fact that Porter's poor play seems to indicate the way the side plays. So when he's playing well, like he did in '85 against the All Blacks, they perform well. But when he plays poorly, as he did in '86 in Australia, it seems to be the way his team goes as well. A lot resting on the shoulders of this powerfully built 35-year-old Buenos Aires architect, and very much the architect of Argentinian rugby over the last 10 years, but his playing days must be coming to an end, and play about to resume after an injury to Epineri Naituku, the Fijian second 5'8", but he is okay. And again, the Fijians coming away with it, charging at the Argentinians on the 22, but the ball has gone free, but they've won it again. Rakawalua, Korunduadua up from fullback, but he couldn't hang on to it. And Temper's getting a little frayed, and right in the middle of it all is Mr. Savai, number 5. And I'm sure Mr. Fleming is aware of Iliati Savai's international reputation, and he's calling him over. Now, this is the man that was sent off in Newport, I think it was, in 1985 on the Fijian tour of Wales. He got into a lot of trouble with the Australian referees in Australia also in 1985, and Mr. Fleming has a word with him here. "37 minutes of play have elapsed in the first half of this match. Only one try so far, scored by the Fijian loose forward Nwale. And again, away goes Nawalasa, the big Fijian hooker who's having a marvellous game.
I think there's a fair bit of tension out there now, Brendan. Feelings are running particularly high. The Fijians suddenly realise they're up, the Argentinians realise they're down.
I imagine not helping things is the fact that these 16 forwards can't really communicate with each other, because none of the Fijians, I imagine, can speak Spanish, and not many of the Argentinians can speak English, and probably even less of them can speak Fijian. But I'm afraid the Argentinians are really on the back foot at the moment, and it's the Fijians calling the tune as away they come again up to the 22.
That time it caught Mr. Fleming unaware. He should have played the advantage, but it came out Fiji's way. But I haven't seen Fiji play like this for many years, Brendan. But if the Argentinians will persist in playing it close to the forwards, because they think they've got a tremendous advantage there, but the Fijians are sort of fringing, if that's the word to use, and then knocking over those moves.
Yes, they are a very unpredictable side. I think the last time we saw them in a test match probably was at Buckhurst Park in Suva in 1984, when the All Blacks took them apart by 45 points to 0 or something. And they looked a very dispirited lot that day. But on a day like this, when they get some early points, they really are unstoppable. And this seems to be the pattern that's emerging from this World Cup, is that a lot of these underdogs, the less fancy teams, are playing above themselves. We saw a spirited performance from the Englishmen yesterday, the Scots against the Frenchmen, and now the Fijians against the Argentinians. Not to mention, of course, the Zimbabweans against the Romanians yesterday. There's something about the World Cup that inspires the underdogs and perhaps frightens the favourites.
I knew you were going to mention the Zimbabweans against the Romanians, and my prediction, it will haunt me for the rest of the World Cup, predicting that the Romanians would thrash the Zimbabweans.
Oh, just look at that power. Oh. Oh. Somehow the Fijians managed to come away. The Korunduadua, through the gap he goes. Nalanga inside the 22. And away goes Sandé. And Gono, 2 metres short of the line. That's a try. Well, it was a magnificent surge started by John Sande. The support came in the form of Ngoro, brought down just a couple of metres short of the line. The ball was picked up by one of those Fijian forwards. It might have been number 4, was it? Number 6? Really hard to say underneath all of that, but Mr. Fleming was on hand. And no doubt about it, it was a try, all right. It's 13 points to 0.
What commitment on behalf of the Fijians. You've never seen a side going in. The Ngoro going there. Now watch the way that when he gets tackled, they're all over the top looking for that ball. And who is it? Well, they're probably going to take it as a team try. It could have been Naituku, actually, that scored it, Brendan.
13 points to 0. What a boil over here at Rugby Park in Hamilton with the kick to come. I would say that if the Fijians win this match this afternoon, that their rugby side might replace Colonel Rambuka from the front pages of the newspapers in Fiji tomorrow. Corin Duadua missed with a kick, but they're ahead by 13 to 0, and they fully deserve their win, or should I say fully deserve their lead at the moment. Fully deserve to be winning in this match because they've really played a lot better than the Argentinians, particularly since they scored that first try. It seemed to take all the stuffing out of the Argentinians. So away come the Argentinians on halfway. Turnez, Cuesta Silva outside of him. Beautiful play from Gomez. Somehow he manages to pluck the ball out of the air again. The whistle had gone. I just can't believe this is the side we saw taken apart by 68 points to 7 at Eden Park earlier this month by a New Zealand provincial side.
The Argentinians can't believe it either, I can tell you, Brendan. They are starting to shake a bit and looking at the man and not the ball. And it's an awesome sight. Having played against Fiji and with Fijians, I remember going up there to play in a game. Colin Meads and myself were the only white men and 30 players, and it was pretty awesome there too.
And even the Argentinian scrum isn't quite as impressive as it was earlier in the match. In fact, the Fijians have won it. They can't do anything wrong at the moment. But there's a whole chapter of knock-ons. So we'll come back for the scrum.
The Argentinians have to settle down. They've got to take the big breath and say, right, let's just get back to our pattern. Let's just not be put off. They've got to have a try before half-time.
Nawalu. Corin Duadua. And he has found touch midway 22 and halfway.
Of course, as we said yesterday about the Romanians, Brendan, that they had another team in the closet that they brought out for about a quarter of an hour. And it looks like the Argentinians will have to get the key to that closet.
Of course, there is a lot of pressure on the Argentinians because they really are one of the teams expected probably to make the quarterfinals. So there is pressure on them, where the Fijians are one of the less fancied sides. They've got less to lose, I suppose, at this World Cup. Beautifully taken by Corin Duadua. He's really stamping his mark on this match. As away goes Naituku, the prop forward. And they're all playing like wing three-quarters, this Fijian forward pack. And that, I think, is half-time. 40 magic minutes of rugby here at Rugby Park in Hamilton, where the Fijian side have really taken it to the Argentinians, scoring 2 tries in the first 40 minutes, one to Nali and the other to one of those forwards who we're not altogether sure of. There was such a melee on the line that it might have been the prop forward, Sarasusi Naituku, or the lock forward and Captain Rakarai, that eventually grounded the ball. But it was a wonderful try from a concerted surging play by the Fijian forwards, which produced that try in the closing minutes of the first half, which have really given a lot of trouble to the Argentinians. And on the run of play so far, they have got a very difficult job in the second half to get back into this match.
Yes, yet amazingly, the set pieces have been run by the Argentinian side. The lineouts are 10 to 6. and the scrums are 9-5. Yet they frittered away all those chances. And the man that's got to take responsibility, Brendan, is Hugo Porta. He is the, as we said, the pivot. He's the fly half for Argentina. He's the one that's got to think, right, we've got an overlap, or we've got to spin the ball here or kick it. And he's been taking the wrong options, and that's why they've got into trouble. The Fijians, we cannot believe the way they're playing, but they are playing, of course, on George Simpson's home ground, Waikato, and some of the things that he did with the Waikato side in the late 70s and early 80s when they won the Ramfrey Shield, it's a bit reminiscent of those sides. It's a lot of commitment on the behalf of the Fijians. They have taken the play to them. They haven't let the reputation of the Argentinians wear anything at all.
Well, I think if we go back to that Auckland match a couple of weeks ago, although they were beaten by 68 points to 7, I couldn't help but feel at half-time in that match, although they were down by 20-odd points at the break, that it was one of the better displays I'd seen by the Fijian forwards in that first half. There was a tightness and a cohesion about their play which I hadn't seen in their rugby for a long time, which clearly is a result of the work that George Simpkin has done up there. And although they were overrun in the second half by Auckland, it was really only in the last 15 minutes when Auckland completely took them apart that they piled on the points. And although it was a hopelessly one-sided score, it oddly enough was one of the better forward displays that I have seen by the Fijians, and I've been watching them now for about 10 or 12 years in New Zealand and up there in the islands. And clearly the experience of the South Pacific Championship this year and last year is probably starting to pay some dividends for these fellows.
Yes, George Simpkin seemingly has got the basics instilled into them. What we were saying before about where you put the line, draw the line as to the freedom that you want to give the Fijians, and yet the discipline must be there too. And I know you've talked to George Simpkin on a number of occasions since the World Cup has started, and I talked to him before the South Pacific. He's had a tremendous influence today, it seems. But if you look at the Fijians, they don't want to start the second half. They're talking over there, while the Argentinians are actually all lined up in their formation on the other side of the field.
So it's 13 points to 0 at the half-time break here. Just repeating the points for Fiji. The first try coming after 16 minutes when their loose forward Nwale received the ball from the hooker Naivila Wasa, who charged down the kick of Porter 10 metres from the line. Wale scored that try. Coro converted. He kicked a penalty after 21 minutes to make it 9-0. And then that surging try, that rampaging try, where most of the Fijian forwards had a hand in just before half-time in the 40th minute of the first spell. It wasn't converted by Coronduadua, and 13 points to 0 was what the scoreboard says at half-time in this match here at Rugby Park. And the large Fijian contingent here at the ground absolutely delighted with what they've seen. And clearly the most worried man on Rugby Park in Hamilton is that man, Hugo Porta.
Rugby World Cup action continues with live coverage presented in association with National Mutual.
So Mr. Fleming just looking at his watch, 14 minutes of this match left, and these will be among the 40 most important moments in the history, I suspect, of Argentinian rugby. If they wish to go any further in the World Cup in 1987, they have got to score at least 13 points in this match. And the ball didn't travel 10 metres in the opinion of Mr. Fleming. And Travaglini got his hands on it just as the ball, I think, was about to hit the 10-metre line. And so we come back for the scrum on halfway.
They've got to score very quickly, I'd say, Argentina, to get their tails up. Under his own hooker's feet, Dumbo Lutu. So it's a free kick to the Pumas, taken quickly by Gomez.
And Porter, that's a nicely placed kick coming out on the 22, but Coronduadua going in a rather uncompromising fashion, and the ball was loose forward. He knocked forward. He might have been lucky not to have been penalised there, Coronduadua, as he showed scant disregard for the Argentinians.
Yes, but he knew where the ball was, and that's what matters. So here's the first scrum, the second scrum of the second half. And all sorts of bother with it. But it's up to the Argentinians to try and keep that scrum level.
And a wild pass to Tuvala out on the left wing, and all he can do is really watch that ball go into touch. 13 points to 0. Remember, the Fijians are leading. This is the side that was beaten 59-0 by Queensland last month and 68-7 by Auckland earlier this month. But it's also the side that beat the national champions Wellington just 2 weeks ago in Fiji. So it's been a roller coaster year of results for the Fijian side. And a penalty against the Argentinians in the line-out for lifting. And Cotton Duadua from inside his 22. So inside the Argentinian half, it's Orgay Allen crashing back into the forwards. So another opportunity for Hugo Porter. This is the longest kick at goal that he's had. He hasn't been successful with any so far today. 2 drop goals and 2 penalties from relatively handy positions have gone astray. And if ever he wanted to see the flags raised in a test match from a kick, it must surely be this one. But he just hasn't got his kicking boots on today by the look of it. And Cotton Duadua just boots the ball as hard as those big thighs and boots of his can muster, and he kicks it down inside the 22. And that suits the Fijian purposes admirably, because they in fact finish up from a position better off than where Porter kicked for goal.
And the touch judge on this side, Brian Anderson, had to run from behind his goal line right up to halfway, and he was really puffing.
Rakawailoa, and the sun has appeared again at Rugby Park, making things even more difficult for the Argentinians in the second half, looking into the sun. And Nawalu. Nalanga, he's in the clear, what a try! The way these fellows are playing, they could probably take on the world and win today. It's 17 points to 0. They post their third try 3 minutes into the second spell. This is where it came from. Nawalu picked up the ball. The long pass out to Nalangu. He had 30 metres to go, and he just bulldozed his way through a very weak tackle by this unfortunate fullback, Salvat, and away he went for the try, 10 metres in from touch. Kavakini Nalanga, the 22-year-old from Nadronga, had started from the kick.
And this is where Porel Salve got in all sorts of bother. I'd say really that Natuku wasn't really a legal charge there, but watch the way that Nalanga, who didn't have that much room to work in, but the way again he just ran past Gomez, he didn't want to tackle him, and that is a very good try. Any winger would be proud of that try.
Well, the Fijians, they haven't had much to celebrate over the last 10 days, I suppose, with all the problems they've been having back in their homeland, but they've got plenty to celebrate here at the moment. But there is still the best part of 30 minutes of this match to go, and Cotton Duadua has been replaced as the goal kicker, and Ilia Rakawailoa, the first 5'8". playing only in his second match for Fiji. Thank you, he says, and that's another nail in the Argentinian coffin, and it's looking more and more like a coffin that's going to leave this field this afternoon in blue and white. 19 points to nil, the Fijians ahead. This is a real boil-over.
Interesting that giving the kick to Rokawailoa, because he's a left footer. It's the right-hand side of the field, and so this is perfect to have a team that has a right and left footed kicker.
So we could see some scintillating stuff now from the Fijians. I don't think there's any question about it that they won't close up the match because they're 19 points ahead. Cuesta Silva just manages to keep hold of it. Cash, Gomez, Travaglini, and little Juan Lanza makes his way inside the 22. The ball goes into touch. And the try scorer, Kavakini Nalanga, was keen to display some alternate skills there. And there's another stoppage for injury.
This is what the Fijians have to watch out for, the over-exuberant play. As Milano looks like the injured player. But Jim Fleming is laying down the law to Nalanga.
Argentinians certainly wouldn't want to lose the services of this man, Gustavo Milano, probably the outstanding forward in that 1985 Argentinian pack against the All Blacks. And somewhere in that crowd over on the far side is George Simpkin, the coaching advisor with the Fijian team, and he knows this ground well. He was coach of the Waikato team here for 9 years, from 1975 to 1984, during which, of course, they took the Ranfurly Shield from Auckland and defended it for the best part of a season before losing it to Wellington.
I think the referee is going to penalise Fiji. Yes, he is. And it's 15 metres in.
And I think that penalty may have been against Kavakini Nalanga, the Fijian winger, number 14, the try scorer, for some vigorous physical play. So Porter again. And because the play would restart with a line-out, and all penalties from line-outs are 15 metres in, that's why the kick is being taken by Porter out there. So Porter with his 5th shot at goal, not to mention 2 drop goals, and at last he raises the flags, and so the Argentinians, scoreless in the first 40 minutes, post their first points of the match. 19 points to 3. They were down 13-0 at half-time, so they've pegged back the deficit, which went out to 19 after that try, back to 16, but they still have an awful long way to go to get back into this match, in essence, to get back into the World Cup. So we've had 9 minutes of play in the second half of this match here at Rugby Park in Hamilton. Fiji ahead by 19 points to 3. And another stoppage for injury. This time it's again Milano, who was injured just a few minutes ago, and it looks like he is going to leave the field. Well, there's just no end of problems for the Argentinians this afternoon. Porter can't get his goal kicking working. There's just no real cohesion about the Argentinian play at all. Their backs have hardly fired, and now their key line-out jumper Milano looks like he's going to leave the field. Well, he has left the field for the time being. There is no sign of a replacement yet, but I don't think Milano will take much further part in this match. Rokawailoa, that's a fairly good boot he's put underneath, and Salvat takes it on the 22. He took it well.
He's had a tremendous baptism under fire as our friend Salve. He hasn't given anything away though, Brendan. He stood there like a ratio defending the bridge. But now it's Fijian ball. Let's see what they can do now. If the Argentinians don't watch out, they've got the free kick. It looked like Tambolutu put the ball under his own hooker's feet.
Rakawala from inside his own half, and he's going to test Salvat again, but they're offside inside the 10-metre circle. The Fijians just a little too quick, and so the scrum to go down from where Rakawala took that kick just inside the Fijian half, and Gomez to feed the scrum. Argentinians backs lined out on both sides. It's the long pass out to Turnez. Oh, a shocking pass to his right winger, Marcelo Campo.
I think some of the Argentinian players are hearing the pitter-patter of large Fijian feet, actually, Brendan.
Well, their backs have only looked a shadow of the side that we saw in that series against the All Blacks in 1985. They just haven't fired at all today. Let's see what they can do this time. On halfway, Turnez, Cuesta Silva, Salvat up from fullback. Nice play from Salvat. But Lancer can't get any further than the 22.
Mr. Fleming, the referee, on hand very quickly there. You can see perhaps something might explode.
The line out on the Fijian 22. It's Sabai that wins it for Fiji. Rakawaloa, who's doing a lot of kicking in the second half, but it's pretty good judgment from his kicking that we're seeing. Salvat, who's looking increasingly confident at fullback for Argentina this afternoon. Well taken by Natuka, the prop forward for Fiji. They managed to clear it again. Back inside the Argentinian half. Porter back there 10 metres from his own 22. And he's coming across the far side of the field. To Juan Lancer. And Lancer, he's still going. Rakawala is giving chase. You'd better get rid of it soon, laddie.
Well, that's one of the funniest things I've seen for years and years. And Lancer just running across the field and starting to go back and finally realising he just had to kick the ball out.
There is a replacement on the field for Gustavo Milano, number 19, Alejandro Chiavio. Chiavio, another experienced member of this Argentinian pack, who's test match experience, coming in to replace Milano, but he wouldn't be in the class of Gustavo Milano. It'd be interesting to see just how well the Argentinians fare in the lineouts now that they have lost Milano.
It looks the Fijians have come almost back to parity with the Argentinians now. The lineout count was 10-6 at half-time. That's now 11-12, still to Argentina, but you can see in the second half that 2-5 Fiji favour.
Well, the Fijians have just got better and better as this match has progressed, and the Argentinians seem unable to arrest the Fijian momentum, really. And I imagine this will have a shattering blow on the sport of rugby in Argentina if they don't go any further than the first round of the World Cup, because the Argentinians are very serious about hosting the 1995 World Cup. And clearly a very good showing in the World Cup here this year would probably boost their chances. So another replacement. I think that's, what, the third one we've had in the match so far, or is it the fourth one? It's a second and final replacement that the Fijians can make. Number 21, Vunivalu. Looks as if he's about to come on. Wale still receiving attention, the man who scored the first try in the match, off the field. So the Fijians playing at the moment with just 14 men. Cotton Dua from inside his own half. Savai and the Rokaroi, the Fijian locks. Savai, who played for the Waikato team last year, there he is, number 5. Played in all 13 matches that they've played in the second division and ultimate promotion to the first division, and I'm sure he's thoroughly enjoying his pilgrimage back to this ground, which he enjoyed so much last year. There's some very close links here between the Fijian team and this province and this ground, with George Simpkin and his time at the helm of the Waikato Rugby Union, and of course Savai, the lock forward who played, as I said, his rugby here last year. Nawalu, Rakawaloa, Cotton Dua. And Lancer underneath it. The Argentinians also with some close links with this city. In 1976, the Hamilton Marist Club, one of the very first rugby clubs in New Zealand to venture to the South American continent for an overseas tour. And since that very successful tour, a whole stream of New Zealand clubs have subsequently toured Argentina. But that was one of the very first trips, and it still is spoken of very affectionately by the Argentinian pressmen here on this tour. And they were very pleased to be able to come back to Hamilton. And since then, we've had Hugo Porter making visits to the city. He was here just over a year ago playing in a festival match on this ground, along with Fabian Ternez.
Poor old Gomez there knocked the ball on when it was coming out his side, well controlled by Argentina.
Well, it's been a happy week for the Argentinians up till now. It is turning into a rather unhappy day, but there's still the best part of 22 minutes of this match remaining. But it's the Fijians on the break again. And the referee...
Only marginally late, but the referee said it was late. They've got a choice of penalties, either where he kicked the ball, where Tavula, I think it was, kicked the ball, or where it landed. And they're taking it back to where he kicked the ball to widen the angle. Now you can see there's the kick there, and there's the tackle. Well, it was late. The second one was late, so another good refereeing decision by the referee.
...23 minutes of the match remaining here at Rugby Park, and time starting to run out for the Argentinians, who really don't seem to be able to lift their play much. They still haven't scored a try in this match. Their only points, that solitary penalty from Hugo Porter earlier on in this second half. And now with Cotton Dua about to kick for goal, we may well see the margin widened again to 19 points. This is a fairly handy angle for Cotton Dua. It's a good 15 metres in from touch and about 10 metres outside the 22. And still not a breath of wind, and the ball dry and the ground hard, so perfect kicking conditions. delight on the faces of the Fijian spectators in the crowd tell the story as the Fijians go out to a 22-3 lead. It's 22 points to 3. With about 22 minutes of the match remaining, so it's almost 1 point a minute stuff now for the Argentinians if they want to get back into this match and take anything from it. Porta, Turnez looking for some support. Salvat up from fullback, he left it behind. Tavula went in looking for it, just outside the Fijian 22.
They're definitely watching the man coming at them and not the ball, the Argentinians. And they seem to want to reduce the number of men in their back line by doing scissors and things instead of saying, right, we'll just put men out there and try for the overlap.
The Argentinian scrum still working pretty well as Rakawaloa gets his kick into touch. Well, of course, these two teams are the All Blacks' next two opponents in pool play. I'm sure they will be most interested spectators looking at this match this afternoon. And if the Argentinians lose today, really their only hope now of getting, I would imagine, through to the next round is they will have to beat the All Blacks. Assuming that they can also beat Italy. A crunching tackle there from Navila Wasa. He's been one of the stars of the Fijian pack today. Crunching tackle from Navila Wasa.
And some of the tackles, watch the way that the tackle is made by Gora going over the top, and that would have hurt.
And another huge kick from Severo Koranduadua from well inside his own half and brings play down to inside the Argentinian 22. And now the Fijians are even winning some ball from the line out. Rakawaloa, the long pass out to Tharma. Tavula. Come in from the left wing. I think the Argentinians have won it, yes. Gomez, Turnez. Campo having a little dab down that right wing, but he can't get very far, and the defence quickly bottles him up.
Campo ran out of support there. The Argentinian side are just not supporting the ball carrier at all. He was isolated then.
And he didn't look very happy about it either. Rakawaloa, who's kicking the ball virtually every time he gets it now, but he's kicking very well indeed. But it was well taken once again by Salvat, who's having a much better second half than he did first half. So it's an interesting duel here between Rakawaloa, the Fijian first 5'8", and Salvat, the Argentinian fullback, who've been testing each other in the second half, and the score is about even, I would say. Some very good tactical kicking from Rakawaloa, but he hasn't found the little fullback wanting too much.
He's been tremendous, Brendan. Salvat, very, very courageous. And that one there, that high up and under, he didn't flinch when he took it.
Also been most impressed, however, by this Fijian first 5'8", Ilia Rakawaloa, who was brought into the Fijian side after the debacle at Eden Park 2 weeks ago.
Just watch now the big kick. Up it comes. Now watch the Argentinian fullback. He doesn't flinch at all. Comes in the areas just outside his 22. He can't mark it, and he takes it well as over the top went Tavulu, and away he goes up the field. That's tremendous play for one so small as he's taken by Savai.
Porta. Cuesta Silva. Dua just ambles in, so relaxed, but he took it well, but the tackle was pretty tough on him as well. Argentinians with possession. Travaglini inside the Fijian half, the Fijian forwards coming away with it. Rakawaloa, Tama, Naituka, and Nawalu, the halfback, looking for some support. There are plenty of white jerseys there. This is where the Fijians are often most lethal. Here goes Nalanga again. Dua is up from fullback. They're all in it at the moment. Savai's having a bit of a run. Great stuff from the Fijians. Rakarai, the lock forward, and the captain picks it up, and away they go again. The long pass out to Tavula. He's only got the fullback to beat. Any support for him? Oh, the movement dies a metre short of the corner flag. Where was the support for Tavula? What a brilliant movement, though. It swept 50 or 60 metres. Can you remember where that started, Graham Thorne?
Right back on the 10-metre line for Fiji. When suddenly the Fijians got the ball, when the Argentinians looked as if they had it completely in control. And it is just the passing like that we remember the great days of Fijian rugby, going back now for 30 years. It was really South Pacific football. And look at the way the hands are coming. And the people support, and they're running like backs, these forwards. The long pass out to Nalanga, and there he puts the ball back, and there's someone supporting him. It was the fullback, right up there, away. The big second rower, Savai, still going. Look at the pick up there from the other lock forward, Rakoroi. And then watch this long pass out over the top to Tavuku. And now he's got no one there, but of course they've all been supporting him, Brendan, before. And there, when it's needed, no one was there.
Just that little piece of finish lacking from that magic movement by the Fijians. That really is vintage Fijian rugby. They played a lot of that rugby in the late 70s and early 80s, but we haven't really seen much of it in recent years. Beautiful take from Savai, and the try. And he would be the most popular figure on Rugby Park, the man who played his rugby for Waikato last year. Comes back to his old home ground, Iliaikia Savai, and scores a try which surely has given Fiji victory in this opening World Cup match. Perfect piece of line-out jumper from Savai. He went way up above anybody else and just dropped through the weak Argentinian defence and posts another try for the Fijians.
Here it comes now. He got up so high, it looked like he would have had a little bit of a support from his friends there and just had to dive over.
26 points to 3. This is not just a victory for the Fijians, it's a rout.
And the bookmakers would have given you any sort of odds. In fact, in the suite that the Television New Zealand crew had here today, I don't think one person picked Fiji.
And I won't tell you what the score was that Graham Thorne picked, but it's nothing like the score that's on the scoreboard at the moment. Dua trying to make it 28 points to 3. There's just no stopping these Fijians now.
A couple of years ago, I coined a term called when you're hot, when you're not, you're not. Well, the Fijians are hot today. And look at that try. What a great leap by Savai.
Well, what a marvellous weekend it has been for this World Cup rugby tournament. We saw some wonderful rugby yesterday, up and down New Zealand and Australia. And the pattern has continued today with what clearly is the first major boil-over, the first major upset in this World Cup. And I have a feeling, by the way things have gone over the last couple of days, that there will be a lot more of this sort of upset rugby before this tournament is over. Just seems to be that the underdogs can really fire in a tournament like this, where these are one-off matches. They've got nothing to lose, and that's what the Fijians have done today. They've taken it to the Argentinians, and they're running them off the paddock, but the touch judge has got his flag up way back inside the Fijian half. Who can blame little one Lanza for backpedaling rather quickly then at the sight of those massive Fijian forwards who are about to swallow him.
He was running for the pie card, I think, up there on the terraces, Brendan.
All he had to protect himself was the ball, which he wisely put in front of his face. Oh, but this is absolute theatre at its best here this afternoon. This is more than a game of rugby. This is priceless entertainment from the Fijians. Cuesta Silva trying to salvage something here for the Argentinians, but they look down and out at the moment with about 15 minutes of the match to go. Down by 26 points to 3. Porter, Turnez, Salvat, and Pedro, and Lanza leaves it behind. Juan Lanza couldn't keep the ball from slipping out of his hands when the try line begged just 10 metres away. And an understandable silence and somberness having descended upon the Los Pacos rugby team from the Tucumán province in the stand. Won't be a day they will remember for very long at all. And this really is the first time in the second half that the Argentinians have been so close to the Fijian line. And a hand, I think, in that ruck has resulted in a penalty to the Argentinians. And I don't think they will bother about kicking for goal. For two reasons. One, Porter just doesn't seem to be able to kick particularly well today, and secondly, they need tries, I would imagine.
There's big gaps out to the right for Argentina and Fiji. It looks, no, they want the scrum. The Argentinians have said they want the scrum and not the penalty, of which they can do that.
Well, it's understandable, I suppose, because they're completely monopolising these scrums, and probably they're going for the pushover. Travaglini, the man at the back. But they just couldn't control the drive long enough, and the whistle had gone, but it will be the Argentinian feed again, a metre short of the line. 26-3 the Fijians lead. Marvellous afternoon of rugby. And already this World Cup has been an outstanding success inside 3 days. Travaglini goes over.
Knock on and goal, 22.
Knock on and goal.
And that's the story of Argentina today.
Well, Mr. Fleming called that a little better than Mr. Lawrence did with David Campisi yesterday. He was right on the spot and saw the ball knocked forward, and so the Fijians have come away from the 22, and Salva tidies it up for the Argentinians, and the Fijians contemplating a quick throw-in. So nothing can go right for the Argentinians in this match. Porter, who has missed 5 shots at goal, not to mention 2 drop goals, and that best try-scoring opportunity they've had in the match frittered away after Travaglini lost the ball forward.
There's a player in the middle of the field at the moment.
There's a Fijian player down inside his own half, out to the left of the picture there. It's Cotton Juadio, or is he just having an afternoon rest? I don't think so. But he doesn't seem to be interested in obtaining any medical attention.
No one seems to be interested in him either, actually, Brenton.
Well, he's worked so hard and he's run so hard this afternoon, he probably feels he might just have a bit of a rest.
He seems to be pointing to his back. So here's the knock on. It was picked up there by Mostany, and he... Well, it looked like it was short of the goal line there, actually. So it probably should have been a scrum right on the goal line again, with Fiji putting the ball in. It seems like Cotton Duandua is okay. We've got 12 minutes of play remaining.
So the task for the Argentinians, if they wish to keep their World Cup hopes alive, is to score at least 23 points in 12 minutes.
That's 2 runs a minute, Brendan. 2 points a minute.
28 points to 3. The Fijians are ahead by. Mustn't forget the conversion of Cotton Duandua. As away goes Mostany, one of the 3 new caps on the Argentinian side this afternoon. Chiavio carries it forward, lost it forward. The referee playing advantage to Fiji. And out to Nalanga on the right wing, outside his 22. He's got Cotton Duandua with him, but he ran too far with the ball. The man who started the Fijian momentum in the second half with that early try just after the break to put them ahead at 17-0, and from that point on there really has only been one side in this match. This shaping up as the greatest day in the history of Fijian rugby. Rokawailoa. He's had a very good game at first 5'8". Nawalo, who's come on as a replacement halfback and played extremely well. The kick from Noro. The ball has gone loose. Well, I remember back in the mid-70s when the Fijians almost pulled off a sensational victory against Andy Leslie's All Black team in Suva, only to be deprived by, I think it was a try in the last minute by the All Blacks. And that would have been the greatest day, and I guess would still have been the greatest day in Fijian rugby. But this performance here today will certainly rank alongside the very best that their national team has ever turned in.
I think I'll give up predictions forever, Brendan.
And the kick charged down by Arakarai, but offside. It was offside, and so the Argentinians receive a defensive penalty. And the shoulders of Ugo Porto starting to drop as he realizes that the battle is almost over. And there is little that he can seemingly do to arrest this amazing Fijian tide, which has just swamped the Argentinians this afternoon. And if the Fijians can continue to play like this for the next 3 games, we may see some quite spectacular rugby from them. And I imagine the All Blacks will have to revise their thoughts and observations about this Fijian side, because they really have emerged as a very strong team on the basis of this performance. Naituku, Sarusi Natuku, the prop forward, is lying on the ground near halfway. It's very hard to know how you actually contain a side like the Fijians when they're in this sort of mood. Be very interested to see what Brian Lahore and the All Blacks do come up with if the Fijians are able to play like this.
You've got to keep the ball, control the ball. This is what the Argentinians haven't done. They haven't controlled the ball when they've got it. They've got scrums and line-out ascendancy, but they just haven't controlled it.
The Fijians have shown that they can live quite comfortably off scraps. Rokalai, a suggestion of a knock forward there, but the referee has allowed play to continue out in front of the Fijian post on the 22. While they should be guaranteed of entry into the quarterfinals as a result of this win, they essentially now only have to beat the Italians, and assuming that the Argentinians don't upset the All Blacks, it would mean that Fiji and New Zealand would go through regardless of what happens in that match between Fiji and New Zealand. So things are looking very good for the Fijians, but they must of course make sure that they beat the Italians. As the Argentinians making a charge at the Fijian line, 10 metres short, and the Fijians have been penalised again.
It'll probably be a tap kick now. Penalties are no good. Well, nothing's no good really. They've got no choice but just to try and have a bit of fun, I think. But I don't think they think it's very amusing at all, the Argentinians today.
They'll be shattered men, there's no question about it. Because they have, as we said before the match started, trained long and hard for this World Cup. And they have been one of the most keen and eager advocates of the World Cup. And we're quite certain they would go at least as far as the quarterfinals. Gomez having a little charge at the line. And this time the Argentinian forwards are being penalised and the Fijians receive a penalty.
Well, I think that says it all, Brendan, that Gomez once again had a wee dab when he had 4 backs outside him to the left, and he took it back to the forwards. They're obsessed with the forwards, yet the Fijians enjoy having the ball taken back to their big forwards who are tackling well, and they get the penalty. And once again, Koronduadua is going to kick for the longest touchline.
And he hasn't managed to find it this time. One of the few mistakes that Koronduadua has made at fullback for the Fiji this afternoon. As little Juan Lanza having a run. He's made 30 metres. Oh, beautiful take from Lanza. He knocked it forward, however, just when it looked as if he had controlled it. It eluded his grasp. But a delightful little burst from 23-year-old Juan Lanza, playing in his 8th cap for the Argentinians this afternoon. Still the Argentinians totally in control of the scrum. But the whistle had gone, and the Fijians have been penalised for an infringement in the scrum by the look of it. Or was it a try? I think it's a try. Yes. So the referee, in fact, has awarded the try coming from the pushover, and so the Argentinians at least come out of this match with the consolation of a try coming in the last 3 minutes. It's 28 points to 7. Let's have a look at it again. From the sheer awesome power of the scrum, they just disintegrated the Fijian pack, and of course once the ball got over the goal line, it was just a matter of who could dive on it first. And again, I'm afraid we're unable to really tell you from this angle who it was that scored that try. Perhaps our end-on camera may give us a better indication. 28 points to 9.
Here comes the push from the Argentinians. They just took the tight head so easily. And there, dived on the ball. Well, you wouldn't know who it was that scored the try. Perhaps we give it to the whole forward pack.
So the Argentinians now trailing by just 19 points, but the try really has come too late. We're into the last 3 or 4 minutes of the match. Been an awful lot of injury stoppages in the second half, and we've had about 40 minutes of running time, so we're virtually in injury time now, which I imagine could go for the best part of 4 or 5 minutes. Cuesta Silva, Salvat, Ternez, and here goes this little fellow again from the left wing. He's running right across the field and he's going backwards. Lanza, Ternez. And at last we're starting to see some sparkle from the Argentinians, but it's come a little too late. Tavula, who's come round to support Koronduadua, and the ball has gone loose to Ternez. Where's the support for Ternez? It's there, yes. Picked up by Koronduadua, but he couldn't keep his fingers around the ball. Oh, this really is early season festival stuff now.
I think the Argentinians have finally realised that they're not going to win the game, and they're going to just play much more relaxed rugby, and if they played this right from the start, it might be a different result. There it is, 28-9. Would you believe it? Hugo Porter doesn't believe it. He doesn't believe that the Fijian is actually injured. He's been doing his usual talking act, as Hugo Porter. He and the referee having many words. One of the great referees of world rugby is Hugo Porter. But the crowd have loved it. They really have. They've been behind the Fijians for the whole 80 minutes so far.
Porter, Cuesta Silva running hard from the centres, and it's scooped up by Naituka, the second 5'8" for Fiji, and manages to get his foot to the ball, puts play back inside the halfway of Argentina. Salvat in trouble, Naituka's got him. Porter leaves the ball behind on halfway. Crowd here dearly love to see the Fijians, I think, score another try. The Fijians in the crowd as vocal now as they were at the start of the match.
And there's some tired boys out there too, Brendan. The Fijians are really out to it.
Mostani diving on the loose ball, but the Referee wasn't happy with that scrum, so we'll have it again. Sorry, it was Jorge Allen, the open side flanker for Fiji, who dived on that loose ball. And who has penalised the Fijian front row, I think, by the look of it. Free kick to Argentina. Porta. This is out Ternez. Cuesta Silva on halfway. He's tried all afternoon, is Diego Cuesta Silva, and he's had a fairly good game. He's looked one of the more impressive backs in the Argentinian side. None of them have had afternoons that they will remember for any great length of time, including their little halfback Fabio Gomez. Well,